Imagine waking up, opening your Meta Ads dashboard, and suddenly seeing your ROAS collapsing overnight. Yesterday, the campaign was performing well. Leads were coming in, costs looked stable, everything felt under control. But today, conversions are dropping, costs are rising, and nothing makes sense anymore. Now the pressure starts building fast because the client is asking questions. What happened? Why did performance suddenly drop? Are we losing money right now? And this is where most marketers make their biggest mistake. They panic. They start changing creatives, changing audiences, changing budgets, hoping something immediately fixes the problem. But instead of stabilizing the campaign, they often make the situation worse. Because meta campaigns rarely collapse for just one reason. Sometimes it's audience fatigue, sometimes scaling damage, sometimes algorithm instability, and sometimes the real problem starts after marketers panic and overreact. This is the part most YouTube videos never explain properly. Because recovering a campaign is not just about optimization. It's about understanding how to stay clear when performance suddenly becomes unstable. And in this video, we're going to break down why meta ads suddenly stop performing, what mistakes destroy campaigns faster, and how experienced marketers stabilize performance before panic takes over. Because once you understand this properly, you stop reacting emotionally to performance drops and start thinking like someone who can actually recover campaigns under pressure. Now here's the biggest problem when meta ads suddenly stop performing. Most marketers panic far too quickly. At first, it feels understandable. Because when performance drops suddenly, pressure increases immediately. The client wants answers. Results look unstable. Budget is still spending. And emotionally, doing something feels safer than doing nothing. So marketers start changing everything at once. They launch new creatives, change targeting, adjust budgets aggressively. And for a moment, it feels productive because movement creates the illusion of control. But then something dangerous starts happening. The campaign becomes harder to understand. Now you no longer know which change affected performance, which audience is actually failing, or whether Meta even had enough time to stabilize in the first place. And slowly, panic optimization starts creating more instability than the original problem itself. This is where experienced marketers think differently. Instead of reacting emotionally, they slow the situation down first. Because before recovery happens, clarity has to return. What changed before performance dropped? Did scaling happen too aggressively? Did audience fatigue increase? Did lead quality shift? Now the situation becomes easier to analyze logically. And only after that, controlled optimization starts. Because real campaign recovery is not about reacting fast. It's about avoiding emotional decisions that make the system even more unstable. And honestly, this is the exact moment where many campaigns get destroyed unnecessarily. Not by Meta itself, but by marketers panicking under pressure. One of the biggest reasons Meta ads suddenly stop performing is something many marketers underestimate for too long: creative fatigue. At first, the campaign performs well. The ad gets attention. People click. Conversions start coming in consistently. And because everything looks stable, most marketers keep running the same creative longer and longer. But slowly, something starts changing. The audience keeps seeing the same ad repeatedly. At first, it still works. But over time, attention starts dropping. People stop noticing the ad. Engagement decreases. Click-through rates begin falling. And eventually, Meta starts struggling to maintain the same performance level. Now here's where many marketers make another mistake. They focus only on targeting or budgets, without realizing the audience is simply tired of the creative itself. Because on Meta platforms, attention is everything. And once attention weakens, performance often follows. This becomes even worse when frequency starts increasing aggressively. Now the same users keep seeing the same message again and again. And instead of creating interest, the ad starts becoming invisible. This is why experienced marketers constantly monitor creative freshness, not just performance metrics. Because sometimes, campaigns don't fail because the offer is bad. They fail because the audience stopped emotionally responding to the creative. And this is exactly why refreshing creatives matters so much during scaling and long-term campaigns. New angles, new visuals, new hooks, because on Meta, attention fatigue happens faster than most marketers realize. And if creatives are not refreshed properly, even strong campaigns can slowly start collapsing without obvious warning signs. Another major reason Meta ads suddenly stop performing is aggressive scaling. And honestly, this is where many campaigns quietly begin breaking apart. At first, everything feels exciting. The campaign is performing well. ROAS looks strong. The client feels confident. So naturally, budgets start increasing quickly. Because emotionally, it feels logical. If the campaign is already working, spending more should create even better results. But Meta campaigns don't always scale smoothly like that. And this is where many marketers get surprised. As budgets increase aggressively, Meta often starts pushing ads toward colder audiences. Audience quality shifts, delivery patterns change, and slowly, the balance that made the campaign successful starts disappearing. Now costs begin increasing, conversions become inconsistent, and suddenly, the campaign no longer behaves the way it did before scaling. This becomes even more dangerous when marketers continue forcing budget increases while performance is already weakening. Because now, the system becomes unstable from multiple directions at once. And instead of controlled growth, the campaign starts losing efficiency rapidly. This is why experienced marketers scale much more carefully. Not emotionally, they increase budgets gradually. They monitor stability closely. They watch how Meta reacts before scaling further. Because real scaling is not just about increasing spend. It's about protecting performance while growth happens. And honestly, many campaigns don't collapse because the original strategy was bad. They collapse because scaling happened faster than the system could stabilize. Another reason Meta ads suddenly stop performing is audience saturation. And this problem becomes much more common during long-running campaigns. At first, performance feels stable. Meta keeps finding people who respond well. Conversions continue coming in. And because results look healthy, most marketers assume the campaign can continue the same way indefinitely. But slowly, the audience pool starts getting exhausted. Meta keeps showing ads to the same groups repeatedly. Frequency increases. Fresh attention becomes harder to find. And eventually, performance starts weakening without obvious warning signs. This is especially common with smaller audiences or campaigns targeting very narrow interests. Because over time, Meta simply runs out of enough high-quality users to maintain the same efficiency. Now here's where many marketers make another mistake. Instead of recognizing audience saturation, they aggressively increase budgets or force more delivery. But this often creates even more instability. Because now Meta starts pushing ads toward weaker traffic just to maintain spend levels. And slowly, lead quality drops. Costs increase. Conversions become inconsistent. This is why experienced marketers constantly monitor audience behavior during long campaigns. Not just ROAS, because sometimes the campaign is not broken technically. The audience is simply exhausted. And this is where strategic expansion becomes important. Testing new audiences, refreshing targeting structures, opening new creative angles. Because on Meta, audience freshness matters just as much as creative freshness. And if saturation is ignored too long, even successful campaigns can slowly lose momentum without obvious technical problems. Sometimes, Meta ads stop performing for reasons marketers cannot immediately control. And honestly, this is one of the most frustrating parts of paid advertising. Because not every performance drop comes from bad strategy. Sometimes, the platform itself starts behaving differently. At first, campaigns may look completely stable. Performance feels predictable. optimization feels under control. And then suddenly, delivery patterns start shifting unexpectedly. Costs rise. Reach becomes inconsistent. Conversions fluctuate without obvious explanation. And naturally, most marketers panic when this happens. Because emotionally, uncertainty feels dangerous when money is still being spent. So they immediately start changing campaigns aggressively. New creatives, new targeting, budget changes, hoping quick action restores performance fast. But many times, aggressive reactions actually create more instability than the algorithm shift itself. Because meta systems constantly adapt behind the scenes. Audience behavior changes. Auction competition changes. Platform delivery behavior evolves continuously. And during these periods, campaigns can temporarily become unstable even without major mistakes from the marketer. This is why experienced advertisers do something very differently. Before reacting emotionally, they first confirm whether the instability is temporary or structural. They compare trends. They analyze broader signals. They watch whether performance stabilizes naturally over time, because not every fluctuation requires aggressive intervention. And honestly, some campaigns get damaged simply because marketers panic during temporary instability phases. This is why calm observation matters so much in meta advertising, because sometimes the platform needs stabilization more than the campaign needs constant changes. One of the fastest ways to destroy a struggling meta campaign is changing too many things too quickly. And honestly, this mistake happens constantly during performance drops. At first, the campaign starts weakening. ROAS declines. Lead quality becomes unstable. And naturally, pressure starts increasing fast. Now emotionally, most marketers feel forced to fix the situation immediately. So they begin making aggressive changes everywhere. They change creatives, change audiences, adjust budgets, modify landing pages. And for a moment, it feels like progress. Because activity creates the illusion of control. But then something dangerous starts happening. Now the campaign becomes almost impossible to analyze properly. Because too many variables changed at once. And suddenly, nobody knows what actually affected performance anymore. Did the creative help? Did the targeting fail? Was the algorithm already stabilizing naturally? Now confusion starts replacing clarity. And instead of recovery, the system becomes even more unstable. This is why experienced marketers recover campaigns differently. They isolate variables carefully, one major adjustment at a time, one measurable change at a time. Because recovery is not just about making changes. It's about understanding which changes actually matter. And honestly, many campaigns are not destroyed by the original performance drop itself. They are destroyed by emotional over-optimization afterward. This is why controlled recovery matters so much during meta ads instability. Because when pressure increases, clarity becomes more valuable than speed. One of the hardest parts of meta ads performance drops is not always the campaign itself. Sometimes, the real pressure comes from the client reaction. At first, performance starts weakening. ROAS drops, leads slow down, and naturally, clients start asking difficult questions. What changed? Why are we spending more? Should we stop the ads? Now the emotional pressure starts increasing fast. Because when money is involved, uncertainty becomes very uncomfortable for clients. And honestly, this is where many marketers begin making emotional decisions. Not because the data clearly demands it, but because they feel pressured to show immediate action. So they start changing campaigns aggressively just to reassure the client, new creatives, new targeting, rapid budget changes. And for a moment, it feels like they are doing something. But many times, the campaign becomes even more unstable afterward because emotional client pressure starts controlling optimization decisions. And this is where experienced marketers behave very differently. Instead of reacting emotionally, they stabilize communication first. They explain what is happening clearly. They identify which signals still matter. They outline a controlled recovery approach. Because during campaign instability, managing client emotions becomes part of managing campaign performance itself. And honestly, many campaigns become worse not because recovery was impossible, but because panic communication created even more pressure and rushed decision-making. This is why calm communication matters so much during Meta ads instability. Because when clients panic, marketers either stabilize the situation or emotionally amplify the crisis even further. So after all of this, the big question becomes, how do experienced marketers actually recover Meta campaigns when performance suddenly drops? And honestly, the answer is usually much less emotional than most people expect. Because experienced marketers do not immediately chase fast recovery. First, they focus on regaining clarity. At the beginning of a performance drop, they slow the situation down. Not emotionally, not aggressively. They start asking structured questions. What changed before the drop? Did scaling happen too quickly? Did frequency increase aggressively? Did lead quality shift? Because before optimization begins, they need to understand what actually destabilized the campaign first. Then, instead of changing everything at once, they isolate major variables carefully, one meaningful adjustment at a time, not 10 changes simultaneously. Because real recovery depends on understanding cause and effect clearly. Experienced marketers also monitor stability differently, not just daily panic reactions. They watch broader patterns, trend consistency, audience behavior, conversion quality, because Meta performance naturally fluctuates over short periods. And emotional reactions to temporary instability often make recovery slower. This is also why communication becomes extremely important during recovery phases. Clients want certainty quickly, but experienced marketers focus on transparency instead of emotional promises. They explain the recovery process clearly. They manage expectations realistically. Because during unstable campaigns, trust becomes just as important as optimization itself. And honestly, this is the real difference between beginners and experienced advertisers. Beginners react emotionally to instability. Experienced marketers create structure before recovery decisions happen. Because when pressure increases, calm analysis becomes more valuable than aggressive action. At the beginning of a Meta ads performance drop, most marketers focus only on fixing the numbers as quickly as possible. And honestly, that reaction feels natural. Because when results collapse unexpectedly, pressure increases immediately. Clients become anxious. Budgets are still running. Confidence starts disappearing fast. But over time, experienced marketers begin realizing something important. Campaign recovery is not only about technical optimization. It is also about emotional control under pressure. Because during unstable performance periods, panic creates bad decisions very quickly. Aggressive scaling, constant changes, emotional reactions to short-term fluctuations. And many times, those reactions damage campaigns more than the original problem itself. This is why experienced marketers think differently during Meta ads instability. Instead of reacting emotionally to every performance fluctuation, they focus on staying clear long enough to analyze the situation properly. They understand that not every drop is permanent. Not every fluctuation requires panic. And not every recovery happens immediately. Because real campaign management is not about controlling Meta perfectly. It is about making stable decisions while uncertainty still exists. And honestly, this mindset shift changes everything. Because once marketers stop emotionally chasing perfect stability, they begin making far better optimization decisions under pressure. And over time, campaign recovery becomes less emotional and far more structured, controlled, and strategic. That is the real difference between constantly reacting to Meta ads and learning how to manage performance pressure professionally. Now, if this video helped you understand Meta ads instability differently, Feel free to share it with someone struggling with campaign performance drops or panic optimization. Stay connected, and I'll see you in the next video.